You did the right thing. Nobody saw. And somehow, that invisibility felt like the worst part of all of it. The modern world has a ready answer for that feeling. It tells you to validate yourself. It tells you that your worth is not contingent on other people's recognition. And there is something true in that. But notice what that answer does not touch. It does not explain why the invisibility stings so specifically. It does not explain why doing the right thing in front of people feels subtly lighter than doing the right thing in the dark. It does not explain why the unseen sacrifice can quietly breed a kind of resentment that surprises even the person carrying it. The oldest Christian writers were not surprised by any of this. They saw it clearly, and one of them named it with a precision that is almost uncomfortable to sit with. Jesus says it plainly in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 1. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Sit with that. He does not say the act stops being righteous. He says the reward changes. The thing you receive when others see you is real. It counts as something. But it counts as something other than what you thought you were collecting. And then, a few verses later, in Matthew 6, verse 4, speaking of giving in secret, your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Two economies, running simultaneously. The question is which one you are actually spending from. Louis de Montfort was a French priest who spent most of his ministry among the poor and the rejected. He was frequently dismissed by church authorities, removed from parishes, and left without institutional support. He knew what it was to do the work and receive nothing for it. He wrote Friends of the Cross not as a theoretical treatise, but as a set of letters to a community gathered around exactly this question. What does it mean to carry a cross that nobody celebrates and nobody relieves? His central observation is this: the cross that is witnessed is not quite the same cross as the cross that is not. Not because God values suffering for its own sake, but because the presence of witnesses introduces something into the experience that functions as consolation. And consolation is not an enemy, but it is a different thing from the cross itself. He writes in Friends of the Cross, "Unhappy are those who bear crosses reluctantly, or who bear them through vanity, or who bear them of their own choosing." Notice what he pairs: reluctance and vanity. These seem like opposites. One person drags the cross in bitterness, another carries it with a kind of performance. De Montfort sees them as sharing the same root. The self has not yet released its claim on the outcome. He keeps returning to what he calls the cross that comes to you, the one you did not arrange, the one nobody applauded, the one that cost something precisely because it offered nothing back. He writes, "The cross is the gift of God to his friends." That phrasing is deliberate, not a punishment, not a test, a gift. But gifts, in de Montfort's understanding, are usually given in private. They do not require an audience to be real. What he is pointing toward is this: when your suffering is seen, you receive something. The sympathy is real. The recognition is real. The sense of being accompanied is real. And because those things are real, they lighten the load in a way that is genuine, but also, in de Montfort's framework, disqualifying. Not morally, but economically. You have already received something. The account is not empty. The unseen cross is not the cross that failed to be witnessed. It is the cross in its most complete form, unmediated, nothing between you and what it actually costs. There is a way to hear everything I just said that would be damaging rather than freeing. So let me name what this is not. De Montfort is not teaching you to distrust comfort. He is not saying that being supported by others is spiritually inferior. He is not asking you to perform isolation or make a virtue out of refusing help. The saints were not hermits of resentment. What he is pointing at is more subtle. It is the difference between the cross you are carrying and the story you are telling yourself about the cross. Because the sting you feel when nobody notices, that specific, surprising sting, it is worth examining, worth asking what it was expecting, not to judge yourself for expecting it, but to understand what was underneath. If what you were hoping for was acknowledgement, then the absence of acknowledgement is a genuine loss. Grieve it honestly, but do not confuse that loss with the cross itself. The cross was what you did. The acknowledgement was something you hoped the cross would purchase. Those are two different things. The resentment that comes from unseen goodness is not evidence that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that you are human. The wisest voices in Christian history were not surprised by it. They simply refused to let it be the final word. De Montfort would say, "The cross that nobody saw is still the cross." It counts more precisely because it cost the thing that witnessed crosses quietly give back to you. It cost you the relief of being known. That is not a small cost. Do not pretend it is. If something you carried went unseen, it was not wasted. The one who sees in secret has not looked away. Take that slowly.